Hi, everybody. Welcome to what is the final episode of Food for the Chakras. I cannot believe that we're here. When we began this journey at the root chakra, it seemed like the crown was so far away and that it would be a long time away. But, I guess that is the magic of time. It is both very fast and very slow. I just want to thank the Modern Witch Movement, these amazing witches, because without them, this series would not have been birthed, and it has given me so much life, and I hope that you've enjoyed it as well. I want to thank you to all of you that have joined me live, that join me on replays, because I am here to share this information with you. And, this is a collaboration. I feed off of your energy. I feel you. I know that you're there. So I really thank you for joining me through this. So today we're going to be discussing the Crown Chakra, and it's represented by the colors indigo, like a very deep, dark purple going into white. And that's why I'm wearing purple and white. And it's about, unity with the cosmic consciousness, this higher plane of being. There's more to our lives than what we see. And so in honor of that, we're going to be making something that is, high vibrational. We're going to be making a coconut cauliflower rice representing the white, with white sesame seeds and obviously the coconut as well. And then we're going to be using a mixture of raw vegetables and cooked vegetables and topping this off with a coconut tahini sauce that has a bit of miso in there. We're going to talk about all these ingredients and why they're important to the crown chakra and why this high vibrational food is really good for us and elevating us and just releasing our density and increasing our vibrations. And we're also going to be talking a lot about fasting, because fasting is actually an essential part of the detox and the elevation and the ascension into our higher planes of being and into the crown. But before we begin, let's do what I always love to do, which is to start by just shaking off the day. Let's just get rid of the day, get rid of all that energy. Let's have some fresh energy. And we're going to take a deep breath. I always like to take a deep breath just to reset, because it really resets our nervous system, resets our brain, and it just allows for new possibilities to come in. We don't get locked into the way we are. And as always, I like to draw a card and share that with you before we begin. And I'm using the Lightworker Oracle. I have a bright light behind me, and so it might give you a reflection. This is another deck by Alana Fairchild. I've used her deck several times, sharing with you with Kuan Yin, I think Sacred Rebels, Isis, maybe, I'm not sure. But I thought the Lightworker Oracle would be appropriate for the crown chakra. And the card jumped out immediately. I barely had to shuffle. It is, if you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it is Spiritual Decree, which again, as always, is so appropriate for what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to read this to you. Spiritual Decree. You have been wondering what will happen next in your life, not realizing how much power you have to decide for yourself. What do you wish to happen next? Are you willing to use your divine birthrights of free will, voice, and empowerment to set the cosmic wheels in motion? If your answer is yes, then it is time to speak your truth to the universe. Decree it, and you shall be it. You have been praying for help, asking for a map, and wanting directions. You're wise in the ways of receptive, responsive approach to life. It is spiritually mature to trust the greater guiding power of the divine to direct your course. And yet the wishes in your heart are part of how that happens. Divine destiny is not something that just happens to you, but it is something that you co-create as a living spiritual being with free will, divine love beating in your heart. You're being honored for your ability to ask for guidance and wait for signs. You're also being asked to set intention and develop faith in yourself, to trust in what your heart yearns for, that you love so much that you're willing to go through the discomfort of growth and come and see it come to life. It is time for you to have the experience of seeing your intention blossom into manifestation. This does not mean that you have to make things happen. You're not responsible for how your manifestation occurs. The universe unfolds according to its own genius, of course, but you are responsible for the words, beliefs, and intentions that you express as the seeds of your personal creations. The universe then responds and opens up its wise and powerful ways. When this oracle card comes to you, it is time to speak your truth. What does your heart truly yearn for? Focus on it and say it out loud. Don't be afraid to speak your dreams, desires, wishes, and fantasies. Sometimes it is only in daring to speak them out loud that we really understand what we want. This can be terrifying, liberating, exciting, and life-changing. It is the moment that we grow into a spiritual adult, becoming willing to take responsibility for our own life journey. Will you speak your heart truth now? Feel into your words, moving the energy from deep within, transforming your truth into sound, and releasing it as intent into the universe. Don't worry about finding the perfect words. Just speak freely from your heart. Give yourself permission to express your deepest desires, and then let go and trust. This is such an appropriate card. I mean, moving through these higher chakras is all about moving from that heart center, your desires, to speaking your truth and trusting yourself, seeing the vision, and then just allowing the divine universe to co-create with you. I can tell you that my own journey through this has been nothing but a co-creation with the universe. I've mentioned this several times. You know, I quit my career last year. I had no clue what I was going to do. I always knew food was my gift and a path, but like I just couldn't see myself. I didn't want to open a restaurant. I didn't want to do the traditional things. I couldn't see what would happen. And, you know, I just kept speaking my truth into the world, and I let the universe come to me. And it came in lots of different ways. Some ways were successes, some ways weren't. But I kept trusting, I kept moving through that discomfort. I mean, we went through some major discomfort, including the entire gutting of this kitchen. This kitchen that you see was only rebuilt very recently. We actually only had it completely done about a week before we went into quarantine. And we were without it for about 7 to 9 months. I mean, it was a long period of discomfort. But through that, I really found my passion in food again. It's something that I feel like had been there, but was quieted. And over time, things just kept coming. I got opportunities that I tried, some which, you know, led to other, they were stepping stones. They led to other opportunities. And here I am right now. I'm, you know, on a last episode of an amazing series, sharing this with you. And, you know, I encourage you to speak your truth. Don't hide yourself. Find your authentic voice. Find what your heart desires and speak it out loud. Don't be scared, because you really are the creator of your own destiny. You have that power, but you have to also allow and trust the universe. It doesn't come to us magically. It doesn't come to us without intention. So really co-create with the universe. And this is exactly where we are. We're talking about creating a connection with this universal consciousness that's all around us. And that's what the Crown Chakra is all about. So when we are moving through our chakras, we're aligning ourselves. And the reason that we want to align ourselves is because we don't want to be out of balance. So the balance can go either way. You can be completely constricted, like imagine your heart, right? If your heart is constricted, you might have issues with selfishness or with lack of giving. And, you know, it's tight. It doesn't want to share. And when you're over open, or, you know, when it's too open, you might be taken advantage of. Your boundaries are crossed. So it's about being in balance. And this goes through all of our chakras. We want to be balanced in all of our chakras. And that's why we move through it, starting at the root and moving all the way to the crown. And remember that the root and the crown are linked. They are the opposite ends of each other. And it's really important that they are linked, because you don't want to be all up here. If you're all up here, you're going to drift away. You're going to waft away. There's no grounding in reality. It's hard to make things happen because it's all conceptual. It's all up there. But we need to be grounded into the earth in order to be that, you know, that channel, that vehicle for this information to flow down from the consciousness and into this physical reality. So we move from the root, the sense of I am, that sense of self, into the sacral, which is that sense of feeling, understanding our relationship with the world. I can. This is where we create power. This is our fire. To the heart. This is where we mix that heart in with this power and this sense of self. We care, we love. So we say, I love. And then we manifest. We move out of the density and into creation through manifestation. We speak. I speak. And we create these visions through our third eye. I see. And now we are in this higher consciousness realm, the I know. And so the crown chakra is, thought to be, right in the center of your head to a few, I'm a little tall here, so, which is unusual, but just a few inches above the head, because it's energetic. We're all energy. And so, this is where we are connecting with higher consciousness. Now, there are more than the 7 chakras that we have. These are the body chakras. These are the main chakras, the main centers of our body. But there's also, a system of the 12 chakras. And the 12 are connecting us deeper into the earth. We have our earth star chakra. And then we have our soul star chakra and some chakras in between that connect us with our higher consciousness and above. And so there's more to this than the 7, but the 7 are the ones that we focus on because this is our human experience. This is why we are here on earth, to really express ourselves and be that divine channel, that transmitter between heaven and earth. And there's also minor chakras in the body, and these are subtle energy centers. There's so much information that we could go into with the chakras, but focusing on these 7 main ones in our body is a great place to start, and I love doing it through food. I want to thank you all for joining me who are watching live. I can see you all, and please comment, let's interact, let's share together. So the crown chakra, as I mentioned, we want to be connected with this higher consciousness, but we want to be grounded so that we can have that human experience. We want to be able to feel all of this information, all of the energies that are around us, everything that's there. We have the ability to digest this information. We have the ability to create it and transmute it into something new. And that's actually what we're doing. We are transmitters and we are transformers of energy. We can take the density that's out there and really alchemize it into something else, alchemize it into something that's more high vibration. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about how we can clear ourselves so that we can transform this density into light. And that's what we are. We literally are light beings. Our DNA has photons. Everything emits light. This is how we see. It's because everything is emitting light. This is something that we can't perceive with our senses because really, truly, our senses are limited. We can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. We have amazing gifts through our senses, but we are filtering them through our human experience. Have you ever seen in light, if you're looking at something, if you flash a light in a dark space and you see all those little dust particles that are floating everywhere? It is just, the world is full of information that we're filtering out. If you were to see all those kind of dust particles on a regular basis, your mind would go crazy. It wouldn't know what to focus on. So we naturally filter that out. We do that with our hearing. We do that with touch. We do this with everything. We really do have extrasensory gifts when we develop them. And so it's really important to remember that there's more to the world than what we perceive. We create our reality through what we perceive, but there's so much more to it than that. So the crown chakra rules the brain and the nervous system. So, imagine this area, and it's also the pineal, the pituitary and the hypothalamus, which are controllers of our endocrine system. So this is kind of the signals of our body that tell our body what to do. And our nervous system and brain, which are basically sensing the world around us. And so when we think about like what this is, like when we think about this energy, this nervous system, we constantly feel like this nervous system is fried in today's world. How many of us are always feeling just a lot of energy and just feeling this need like to get it out somehow? It might translate into anxiety in some people. It might actually translate into needing to cocoon yourself in bed. You know, one of the best ways to really, you know, to, I guess, subdue that energy is to ground yourself on the earth. And again, this is the connection between the crown and the root chakra. Go outside, stand on the earth, stand on grass, on dirt, on sand, whatever you have available to you, rocks, you know, just ground with the earth. Allow that energy to flow down and into the earth, and allow the earth to work her magic. She will transmute that energy for you. She will alchemize it. And then allow that new vibration to raise up into your root chakra, all the way up, and allow it to connect you again to the heavens above. And this is just a way to really center yourself. And again, symbolizes this connection between the root and the crown. So I want to get back to, you know, this concept of this energy that we have in our nervous system. You know, we are basically electrical currents, right? We are giant electrical currents. That's what our nervous system is. It's sending signals all through these electrical impulses. We're giant powerhouses. We look to other sources for power, but we ourselves are powerhouses. When you think about what we do with the energy of the sun, or you think about what we do with the energy of, you know, of all that fossilized material that has turned into oil, right? This plant matter, this old earth energy, all of this stuff is something that we use to power everything around us, our lights, our lives, everything, our phones, you know? But we ourselves are giant energy generators. So what could you imagine for yourself if you were able to harness this energy? If you were able to harness that power, what would you create? And this is where we are with the crown chakra, is learning how to harness this energy and with all of our chakras and receive this information from this higher consciousness so that we can manifest into reality what we want. We're so unique. We each have our own expression of DNA. We have our own past, our own present, the way we live, our lifestyles, what we eat. Every single ounce of your being, every single choice you make is yours, that defines who you are. And there's nobody else like you. And so as a result, you have a special gift. You have a special magic. You have the special something that makes you you. And it's when we harness this energy that we can use all of that to really, truly speak our truth, right? Speak our truth, express ourselves, declare what it is that we want. And this is what I'm doing with the company that I am birthing into existence. And I want to thank both the founders of the Modern Witch Movement, Molly and Rocky, because they're definitely like co-creating with me and helping me birth this into existence. But, you know, I am creating, you can see my little logo here. This is Food Alchemics. That's my business card. But what I'm doing is I'm really working with people to be able to harness this power, find their individual voice, their individual expression. I do this through food because our relationship with food is so intimate, so personal, and it really does define who we are. So if you want to find out more about this, you know, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. It's my passion. I rebirthed myself through my journey with food. And, you know, I am so happy to be able to share my medicine with other people. So when our crown chakra is in balance, we are connected to higher consciousness, right? We are connected to spirit. We know that the world is not based on this physical density. We're formless. We're limitless. You know, we are these light beings. This is what I was telling you, that we're coated with light. There's light in our DNA. The photons in our DNA are emitting this light. We are constantly emitting this energy. And now we can tap into it and feel it. I just want to do a quick exercise with you. Just quickly rub your hands. Rub, 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 rub. Generate that heat, generate that power. I mean, this is even better if you like tap yourself on your body, you know, just activate those hands. And now just put your hands together. You can start to feel that energy. You can start to feel that non-space between the space. There's something there. There's something more than just the physical touch. When we touch our hands, you can feel a different sensation. And when you pull it apart, you can feel that there's something else there. The more you practice with this and the more you play with it, you can begin to feel the energy off of everything. I mean, our phones, our computers are constantly emitting energy. And I think that there's a lot of us that are, you know, are able to perceive that. We can sense that energy off of these things. And so imagine if you can do it with things that you don't normally think about, like your hands, your body, even just, you know, especially your food. You know, high vibrational foods, they all carry an energy. They are alive. And so, you know, start to play with your senses. Start to play and see, like, can you see beyond? Can you hear beyond? We talked about this in the last episode, dealing with the third eye. So think about the ways you can try to perceive. When you're in your higher consciousness, when your crown chakra is open, you can perceive so much more in the world than what's there. You're also liberated from your limiting patterns. You're communing with the higher consciousness, and you're accepting spiritual beliefs that are different from your own. What you're doing is that you're beginning to be able to give love to things that you would normally react to. Paradoxes, opposites can live in one hand. Duality condenses into a single offering. Just like take this time, for example, we're in quarantine, right? Or, you know, various parts of the country are in quarantine, have been in quarantine. This whole, you know, new time that we're in right now with a disease dictating how we operate and live and interact with one another. It's changing the way we are. It's disruptive. It can be hard to deal with. But at the same time, it's been offering so many opportunities for growth. We are evolving as individuals, as a society. We're beginning to understand what really matters. We're beginning to birth new things, new creations. We're looking at what is meaningful in our life in a new way. So you can hold both the dislike and the like in the same hands. For example, you can see, this is a hard practice that I've been working on and doing. There's so much in the world that's coming to the surface. We've been talking a lot through these last episodes of, you know, all of the things that we've been seeing being rooted, you know, uprooted from the root and the sacral with, you know, racism and, you know, the pedophilia and all these things that, like, we just don't want to think about, but that exist, and they need to come out. They need to surface. They need to be exposed. And we can look at it and we can be horrified and we can take action and we can do what we need. And at the same time, we can learn that when we fight fire with fire, we just create a bigger fire. We can learn that it is about sending love. It's about sending love to those who lack it. They lack so much love that they're doing these horrible things. And by sending love, we're empowering them with love. And so it's a paradox. It's an opposite. It's the duality. But these are the things that we begin to see when we are in our higher consciousness, when our crown chakra is open. So I encourage you, as you work through your chakras and you work through balancing and releasing and purifying, and you get to this crown and you begin to feel that oneness, that unity, to really truly start to embody that unity. Look at the ways that you can, you know, Do something that is in alignment with the new way of being, rather than resting on the way that we used to do things, which is to constantly react and not to act. It's all about love. It's all about love. And that's why our heart is in the center, connecting our lower chakras with our higher chakras, being that center point so that we are grounded in our heart and dealing with the density of the earth and the higher consciousness, and transmuting and filling everything with love. So when you're in your most clear state, you're in enlightened wisdom, right? And this is the gateway to your higher self. And that higher self, we talked about this in the last episode, but, for those that didn't get a chance to watch, or, just as a reminder, what is our higher self? This is, a thought that, I had spent a lot of time contemplating, and through my own meditations and through working with a lot of amazing people, I've definitely come to a better understanding of the higher self, which is, another way to put it, is our future self. It's a version of who we are that has experienced everything. So there is only one moment, and that moment is now. Past, present, and future all collide into now. And we can talk about quantum, we can talk about so much. There are so many ways to look at this, and it's really quite fascinating. But if you just take this moment of now, it means that all past lifetimes, all future lifetimes, all dream states, all worlds of existence exist in this moment of now. And you are operating through what you are perceiving as your moment of now in the reality that you're experiencing right now. So there is a version, though, because of you that's experienced it all, because there are so many versions of you out there in the world. I mean, forget about the versions of you that we've been talking about, past, present, and future, past lives, future lives, all this. Every single person has an idea of who you are. That is their perception of you based on their experience of you. And that is not truly who you are, but it's a version of you that exists. And so there are so many versions out there. Our higher selves, our higher consciousness has seen and lived through this all. It exists what we call the fifth dimension. And that's a higher vibrational state. And it is that part of you that you can tap into for some inner wisdom and inner knowing. When I do my breath work, when I'm in my meditations, and I do this every day, regardless if I have a specific question or not, but especially if I have a specific question. When I'm in my meditation, I ask my higher self to provide me with guidance. I ask it, to let me know if there's something, what I need to know in this moment of now. If I have a specific question about like my next move or what to do, I ask it. I ask it through empowering questions. What is the next step for me to achieve my goal that I want to achieve? Or how can I learn from this situation? And it will provide you with answers. You might get a feeling, you might get a thought, you might get a sign from the world that's external from you, whatever way. You just have to be open to receiving and not limiting yourself to receiving it in a way that you want to receive it. Because we are limiting ourselves. The world is so much bigger. Our experience and reality is so much bigger than what we perceive, as I've been saying. So allow for it to come to you. And when it comes and you're like, was that a sign? Just say, yes, it was a sign. There's no need to bring the thinking mind into it, because then that collapses us back into this density. That collapses us back into the 3D. So we don't want to, go back to this density. We want to stay in that high vibrational state. And when you keep yourself open and you just say, yes, I saw 1111. Was that my sign? Yes, that was my sign. It said, do this. Was that a sign? Yes, that was a sign. You'll find that your higher consciousness, your spirit guides, your angel guides, anybody you talk to won't give you an answer that's saying, that's like judgmental or demanding. It's just going to give you a direction. It's going to give you a thought. It's going to give you some guidance. It's going to be open. And so, and it might sound like yourself, or it might be this vision that you don't truly understand. Allow yourself to remain open and to receive. So again, it's because when our crown is not open, we're back into this material state. This is what happens when our crown is not open, is that we're so connected to ourselves as how we define ourselves. We're connected to our thoughts, our ways, control. We focus on the material, our physical reality. We don't look to, to the outside as being information. We want control. We are closed-minded. We don't have a sense of purpose. And this can translate into anxiety and fear. So just remember that, we want to try, as we align our chakras and as we open up our crown, to remain open, that we're energy. Everything is emitting energy, and there's information that we can't perceive. Now, if we think about the fact that there's all this energy coming out of our body, I mean, there's some people who can see auras, there are people who focus that naturally can see it. And then there's people who learn how to focus themselves and train themselves to see that visual energy, to see all of this energetic field around us. And when you think about the fact that there's all of this energy around us that we are not normally perceiving because we're so locked into the density of this 3D reality, that we end up missing a lot of information. Right now, there's so much light being shown upon us. We're in this time period, and you can look this up astrologically, and all these different gateways and portals, and we just came out of the Lion's Gate, and there's now something dealing with the Milky Way. I've only just started to read up on this stuff, but there is so much light being shown upon us right now. There's so much information and light, and we don't even know what this information is. We don't even know because we are not perceiving it. We're limiting ourselves to our senses. When you just open yourself up, you allow for the activation. Our DNA is light. We are light codes. We are literally beings of light. And so allow that light to shine on you, and allow it to activate you, and allow it to just provide you with that which you do not know. Just allow yourself to believe. All right. So I want to, talk about the fact that, when we open ourselves up, and, when we're talking about our fifth dimension beings, our higher self, and we can talk about spirit guides and angel guides and all these beings that, you can invoke them into your life. I don't know if you have a practice of talking with them. We talked about this in the last episode, but I encourage you to reach out for help to these other dimensional beings, people that have been with you in your life and that have crossed over to the other side. They're still with you. They're there. And if you ask them for help, they will help you. Be open to this. We're not alone. There's been a lot of talk about what's going on. I mean, what was it? The Pentagon released that UFO sighting. And, again, there's questions of what's happening. There's people who are releasing this information because it's important this information gets out. And then there's people who are releasing this information to kind of distract us from what's going on. So, it's important to stay aware of information without getting locked into things. But yes, the Pentagon, who we, have always been talking about is trying to quiet all this information, released information about UFO sightings. There are beings with us. There are intergalactic beings. We have beings that are watching over the earth and helping us through this time, have always been helping us, but are especially helping us through this time. And they exist in other realms. Now, we can't connect with them because we are in this third dimension. We're in this lower density. For them to be what they're doing and where they are, they're in higher density. They're in higher dimensions. They're more vibrational light. Now, I know that it's this concept of, that there's more to this universe than the earth scares some people. But really think about it. Our inner world is a reflection of our outer world. Think about what interacts with our body. It looks like here I am, a clean, fresh individual that, it's just me. I don't have anything else on me, but I'm composed of bacteria. My entire body system, your entire body system is working because of the bacteria that we have co-created life with. Without our gut microbiome, which we are going to be talking about later, I mean, where would we be? We would not be digesting food. We wouldn't have nutrients in our food. There's bacteria in our skin. There's bacteria everywhere. We've become so fearful of bacteria. We're using antibacterial everything. But truthfully, there are good bacteria too. And we are composed good bacteria. I mean, our gut alone has something like 200,000 to 300,000 strains of bacteria. I mean, if we have this much in our inner world, when we look at this grand universe with all the stars and all those things out there, how can we be alone? We're not alone. Just like the bacteria, the smallest organisms, you know, I'm sure there's something smaller than that, but the smallest organisms in our body are helping us live. There are higher dimensional beings that are helping us live as well. So it's important to remember that, you know, we are connected to them. And when we're in our higher states of consciousness, we can connect to them better. They have to lower their dimension, their density, and we have to raise ours. And that's where we meet in the middle. Because it's hard to lower your density. I mean, think about when we're in our lowest densities, when we're depressed, when we're anxious, when we don't feel good, when we don't feel like we are, you know, in our purpose. It's not necessarily a good feeling. So they have to lower their density. That's not an easy process to be in that state. So, you know, we have to meet them halfway. And that's what we do when we, you know, when we integrate ourselves and when we align ourselves and we are in our highest vibrations. So let's talk about how we raise our vibrations with food with the Crown Chakra. There's two main ways: wonderful food, healthy, high vibrational food. And we're going to be getting to this recipe and making this high vibrational food recipe. But there's also the other aspect, and the most important aspect for the Crown Chakra, which is actually no food. It's fasting. Fasting and detoxing our body. It's when we feed ourselves, not with dense food, but with sunlight, those light codes that the sun is constantly giving us light codes, with water. Water is life. With air, breath is life. These are essentials to life. And so fasting is actually an important part of opening up this Crown Chakra. So, you know, with those of you who are watching, oh, my cousin just joined. Javeda, it's nice to see you. Hi. I want to ask, like, has anybody fasted? Do you fast? And, you know, what's your experience of fasting? I'd just like to know. I'd like to know, you know, is this something that you just know of but you don't do because it scares you? Is this something that you're interested in doing? Is this something you do regularly? Is something you do once a year, once every few years? Whatever it is, just tell me your experience. I am curious. I'd like to know. For me, I have had my own journey with fasting. Indian culture, and you know, my mom was a devout Hindu. My dad was a man of science, is a man of science, and you know, he doesn't really have that many spiritual beliefs. And my mom is a devout, you know, religious person. And so she had days where she would fast, and there were fasting days for various things. I didn't really truly understand it, but I watched her fast. And, you know, it was an interesting relationship with fasting, where she was fasting for something else. She was giving her energy to something else, for spiritual purification in another realm. And that's where, like, I didn't fully understand it. I grew up with a very mixed background. My parents sent me to a Catholic school. You know, I had science in my life. I had this spirituality with Hinduism and then Catholicism. And I was exploring lots of things. I was into tarot and, you know, witchcraft and all these things. I didn't understand anything. There was just a lot going on. And so I didn't quite understand that relationship of fasting and, you know, this concept of connecting you with the divine. And over the years, I tried fasting. When I started studying Ayurveda about 20 years ago or so, fasting was an important aspect. But again, this was linked to, Indian traditions and things like that. And so I think part of me kind of associated it with my parents and all these things. And I didn't quite understand it. And I would try to fast, and it was really hard. It was really hard. I had this mental struggle, and I'm sure a lot of you go through this. And it is like, there was that mental struggle that just, I didn't want to fast. My body was hungry. And, I didn't know what to do with it. And over the years, I started to develop a relationship with my body and understanding how fasting helped my body. And I'm seeing some comments from you guys. Fasting before readings, yes. Connect with source, and the downloads are stronger and clearer. Yes, yes, yes. That's definitely something we're going to be talking about. And doing it regularly, didn't know it was a thing before. I didn't do it for something else, but because I like to sleep a lot, and it just happened. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Like sometimes our bodies will naturally lead us to things that we didn't even know we needed, that we didn't even know we wanted, that we needed to have to, help with our systems in some way. So I'm just going to say right now, I'm on day 3 of a 5-day fast cleanse. Now I call it a fast cleanse because, parts of it are just completely fasting, where it's a water fast mostly. And then there are days with juices. Now we're going to talk about safe ways of fasting. We're going to talk about all this. I just, it's so interesting. As I've been doing this series, like my body will tell me what I need to do. And I actually didn't really know what I was going to talk about with this episode. And my body was telling me to fast. I eat really healthy. I eat, high vibrational foods, and, you see the food that I cook, and this is something that I do regularly. But, we all eat some processed foods. I eat really good processed foods, but it's still processed food. And there came a point because of travel and when I got home and busy and whatever, I just started eating maybe more processed food than, I normally do. And when I say processed food, I mean like a really wonderfully made empanada from the market that's made of just spinach and like a nice shell, pastry shell. And, but that pastry shell, it's a lot of refined flours. And when it's food from the outside, there's just different energies in the food. And so it was definitely affecting my system. I started noticing my allergies. I started noticing, my asthma. I started noticing my cravings. My cravings were out of control. I mean, I eat chocolate all the time. I love chocolate, but my cravings for chocolate were way out of control. And so I was, I just got the message in my meditation. It was like, you need to fast. So I prepared myself. Now, this is something that's really important. You prepare yourself for a fast, and we'll get into that. But I prepared myself for a fast. And I'm talking about long fasts, but, especially you just need to prepare yourself mentally if you don't do this regularly. But I prepared myself, and then I began to fast. And then as I started thinking about this episode, I realized that this is exactly what this episode is about. It's about fasting, because this is what we need to do for a connection with our higher consciousness. Intermittent fasting. Yes, that's another important fasting regimen. And there's intermittent fasting that we'll talk about, that you can do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. But the reason that we fast, and we do this for higher consciousness, but let's bring it down to our body. Let's bring the importance to our body, because as I mentioned, we are vehicles of transmuting and transmitting and alchemizing energy between high consciousness and lower consciousness, the earth. So we fast and we cleanse to clear the body of toxins, right? It's a detox. Everybody has the urge or does a fast to detox in some way. We think about it, there are over 3,000 chemicals that are approved by the FDA. 3,000, and new ones are there and being introduced, okay? And then there's the soil and the air and the water. And, we can be as clean as we want, but there are toxins all around us. And then think about food. I mean, it's really hard to get food that does not come in plastic packaging. Plastic carries toxins. There are so many toxins everywhere. And so when we have, when we are putting these toxins into our body, they're actually destroying our gut health, our immune health, and they're increasing issues with our nervous system. So I don't know, I think like this has been talked a lot about, but I'm always, I always hear people who don't realize about the connection between our gut and our brain. There is a strong connection between the two. Now, we talk about this as gut instinct, as our intuition. There is a physiological response for that. We feel with our gut. We have a nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system that is around our gut. It sends signals to our brain nonstop. We have an immune system that is dependent on our gut. Our gut health is what transforms the outside world with our food into the inner world. We are what we eat. When you look at that food, everything on that plate is going to get digested into you. It's going to get broken down into parts and it's going to get incorporated into you. And that is the function of our gut. When we are feeding it toxins with the food that we eat, and some of it you can avoid and some of it you can't in today's world. But like this is all being put into our gut. And our body does not know what to do with it. We have been evolving for thousands of years as humans, and we have been living off the earth. Modern agriculture is really not that old. The use of chemicals to, spray plants and make them grow better, and to, package foods and to inject into food so that they look better and taste better, or they don't really taste better, but you know what I mean. And they all of this stuff, this is in our food, and our body has not evolved to deal with it. They don't know, it doesn't know what to do with these toxins. So do you know where these toxins go? They get stored in our fat because our body is trying to neutralize it. Fat is a neutralizing molecule. It just takes all that stuff and holds on to it. And it holds on to it because it's trying to protect you. Our bodies are constantly trying to heal themselves. Our DNA in our cells goes through errors all the time. It's replicating and replicating, making new cells. And there are errors. There are errors that happen. We have checks and balances in our DNA, in our cellular systems that are like, okay, let's go repair that because we want a healthy cell. We have so many checks and balances in our body. We have redundant systems everywhere, and we're just not aware of it. Our body is operating and we go on through life doing what we want to do, being in higher consciousness, getting our work done, doing whatever. We're not aware of all the things our body does for us to keep us healthy. I am so grateful for the health of my body because it is this body that allows me to be and express myself. So our body is constantly healing, constantly repairing. When you start to feel an ache or a pain, when you start to feel anything, this is what is telling you that something is wrong. But to get to the point of an ache or a pain, to get the point of disease or a problem, you have overloaded your system so much that it's now sending signals. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with this. I need help. Help me now. So these are important things to be aware of. Don't just ignore the ache or pain and take a Tylenol and do, mask it and go on with life. Your body is crying out for help. So our fats store our toxins, right? It's trying to neutralize it because our body is all about healing. Heal it, heal it, heal it. And it's like, what is this toxin? What do I do with this thing? Let's just stick it in fat. Let's neutralize it. Let's hide it away. So the problem is that, as a society, we always are focused on our looks. We want to look good. We want to feel good. We want to do all these things, but we want to do it fast. So what will we do? We go on these fat burning things. Let's burn that fat. Let's just, that'll make us feel better. But then why do you feel like crap after you've burned all that fat? It's because the toxins are being released. our body is like, what are you doing? Now you've released all these toxins and now you have to get them out of your system. So you get it out, sometimes with sweat, you get it out through peeing, but a lot of us are really dehydrated. We don't have enough water. I mean, I drink water all day and I still feel dehydrated. The amount of water our body needs is quite a bit. We're really not, we're not hydrating ourselves. And so we are also deprived nutritionally. We don't get enough fruits and vegetables in our diet. We don't get enough nutritional quality. Sometimes the food is dead. Sometimes we overcook it. Sometimes we do certain things. And so our body is lacking nutrition and we're nutritionally deprived in some ways. And so what ends up happening is that we have all these toxins being released and we're nutritionally deprived. And so then we end up craving the worst things or wanting more. And then we just constantly retox ourselves. And it creates the stressor system of the body. The food that we eat, like when you think about, some of the basic things like white grains, sugar, salt, we're in these sugar burning modes where body is taught to burn sugar, and it burns the sugar over the fat because it doesn't want to release all of the toxins in the fat. So what we want to do is when we're talking about burning fat, we're not just trying to burn fat to lose weight. We're burning fat to get rid of toxins. And it's important that we do this in a healthy way, that we do this in a way that our body is not deprived, where we're not going into a state where we're like, okay, great, I've been on a water fast for 3 days, and now I'm just going to load myself with, whatever I want to eat because now I'm just going to retox. Imagine I have lots of tattoos on my back, but I imagine what it would be like if I were to go and get those tattoos removed, go through, the laser surgery to get these tattoos removed, and then immediately get a new tattoo on that. It would be so painful. That's what we do to our digestive system when we detox and then retox. So it's really important to be conscious about what we're eating and how we go into these fasts and what we do to these fasts. Cilantro oil and cilantro. Yes, cilantro is so good for releasing toxins. Now, unfortunately, there are some people who have that gene, which cilantro tastes like soap. And I'm very sorry to all of you because I really love cilantro. And it is in so many cultures, Mexican, Italian, Indian, Chinese. I mean, it's used everywhere around the world, but it's obviously a variant that is not meant for you. And it's your body telling you that cilantro is not good for you. But yeah, cilantro oil is something that is, and cilantro itself is a great way to release toxins. There's a lot of foods that can help you, and essential oils, and these are things that that are tools to help us. But we can also do it by just really thinking about how we eat. So I want to going back to this concept of nutritional value. Have you ever eaten a bowl of pasta? It's a pretty big bowl, let's say, and you eat it and you're like, I'm still hungry, or you still feel like you could eat more, or at an Italian restaurant, you get that beautiful, crusty, white, soft bread, and you're like, I just got to have this with some butter. And then you eat pasta on top of this, and you can still down that pasta, and your body just does not realize that you're full. It doesn't have any the sensors for being full are not there. And that's partially because it's burning. What it does is it's converting that pasta into glucose, into sugar, and we're running off of sugar. And so our body produces more insulin. It thinks that it's still hungry, and it just doesn't know when to stop. But sometimes you can have that big salad full of stuff, right? And you eat it, and you're like, I can't finish the salad. It's because your body knows when it's satiated. It gets the nutritional value. And this is why it's really important to think about what you're eating and how you're eating. And so you're not depriving your body, and you're getting the nutritional value that you need. And when you go into this aspect of healing and healing through food, you realize that you're clearing yourself on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. And this is what I'm doing with Food Alchemics. This company that I'm creating is I'm really helping people get in touch with their bodies, learn to be with their bodies by better understanding their relationship with food so that they can heal mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as physically. So let's, when we're in a fast and we are, we're in this idea of like really getting into, into a higher state. And you start to have these thoughts of like, I want to eat something. I really need to eat something. I just, I need to have something. We tend to go to density again. We tend to go to the things that our ego wants, because our ego is our safety. It's protecting us. It's saying, you had this before. It makes you feel good. Eat that chocolate, eat that burger, eat that whatever, eat those French fries. It makes you want to do things that it knows have made you, quote unquote, feel good, but maybe not so good afterwards, right? Because then you're left with an emotional state that maybe you don't feel so good in. So it's about remembering that we're feeding all aspects of ourselves. And when we're in those states and we start to feel that like, oh my God, I want to eat this, remember that that is the ego, that is the density. Try to work through that. Try to develop a relationship with yourself. What am I craving? What is that emotion that's coming up that's making me crave that food? And feed it nutritional things. So I talk a lot about the broths I make. I just reuse old bottles. This is an old apple cider vinegar bottle. But we've made broths in that throat chakra episode. I save all the cuttings. These are, the carrot peels and asparagus stems and kale stems. I save all that food. I throw some spices in, put it on high heat with some kelp and kombu. And I've talked about this in previous episodes, and I make a broth. When you are feeling like you need to have something and you can't subsist on anything, have some broth. Broth will give you that nutritional value. It won't give you anything to digest, because what we want to do is to be able to give our digestive system a break. We want to make sure that we are taking that break so that it can heal. It can allow those microbes to reset, allow the systems of our body to reset. You don't want to be breaking anything down. You don't want to be forcing anything in that's going to take energy from you. It gives your time for your immune system to reset, for your blood to pump, for your, gut to just like replenish itself. Imagine running a car engine all the time. It's going to burn out eventually. And our bodies have been forced to be processing all these processed foods and digestion for a long time. So you want to make sure to be, giving yourself a break. Now with the dense food and giving yourself nutritional value. Other things you can do is make a vegetable juice. Give yourself the nutrition. Now, this is what I mean by leading into a fast. If you're doing a long fast like myself, you want to make sure that you give yourself some nutrition, because again, you don't want to be nutritionally starved going into a fast and then releasing all these toxins and having your body go a little haywire. So give yourself some nutritional value. If you need to do it during your fast, broth helps, vegetable juices help. You can even have coconut water, extremely hydrating. Always drink a lot of water because you want to flush those toxins out. But coconut water will provide you with just a little bit of sugar, just enough, and it's healthy. I like to do it with fresh coconut. You can see that, I had one leading into my fast and I saved it just to show you guys. But if you're feeling the need to eat something, if you really, really need to eat something, have some of that coconut meat. Coconut meat's really good. I like to think it's white, great for the crown chakra. It'll digest easily, provides you the right amount of sugar. It has fat, good for the brain, for the nervous system. Other things that could be good are fruit, but you don't want to overdo it on fruit, and you don't want to eat the vegetables raw because then you have to digest the fiber. Melon is really good. It's the fastest digesting fruit, and it has, a lot of things that are good for you, but this will help you. This will help you through a fast. Just eat a little because you don't want to be sugar burning. You just want just a little bit to just give yourself that sense of like, oh yes, okay, I did something. I feel a little better. So you can help yourself with those fasts. So ease in, like I said, intermittent fasting. Somebody, Shweta, my cousin, mentioned intermittent fasting. You can do intermittent fasting, like, where maybe you don't do it every day of the week, do what you feel comfortable with. Listen to your body. Your body is going to tell you what's right for you. And you can build and you can, stretch these things out. Intermittent fasting is anywhere from like 14 to 16 hours. Usually you stop eating at a certain time in the day, and then you give yourself a nice long break for your digestive system to reset, and then you can begin eating the next day. Now, we normally do this. This is when we sleep at night, right? We shouldn't eat too late to give ourselves at least 12 hours without food. Usually it's between 8. Sometimes it's less because we could be late night. And then we have breakfast. We break our fast. So we break our fast with breakfast, break fast and we should be eating foods that are good for us, that we can, get that are light on our digestive system, not too heavy. I know we tend to be a society that loves to have heavy breakfast, but we want to have something light to break that fast and get our systems running. I like to start my morning with a glass of water. I also take a shot of fire cider. This is the fire cider that I make. I have videos on how to make it. As you know, I sell it, but here's my fire cider brewing. I've been having fun. I got to get a lot of amazing herbs and roots and seeds and mushrooms and everything from this amazing pharmacy of natural herbs, roots, and all this stuff. And so I like to have a shot of fire cider in the morning. If you need fire cider and you're in the LA area, reach out to me. If you're not, watch my video on how to make it. You can make it yourself. I do that, and it cleans out my system. It's like a shot of espresso. It's better than caffeine. It gives me energy. And then introduce foods, and watch yourself, watch how you feel. You can do a fast once a week, for a day. You can do fast like I'm just doing right now, where it's an extended period of time. But listen to your body, work up to it, do what's right to you. And then you want to make sure when you're going into a fast and easing out of a fast that, like I said, you're not retoxing your body right away or stressing your body right away. Because while it's good to eat whole plant-based food like, raw vegetables and things like that, you want to make sure that you're not stressing your system out right away. So start with juices. Start with veggie juices. Try again to have more vegetables than fruit, because the fruits are great, but there's a lot of sugar and we get a lot of nutritional density. Matcha after a fast. I've never, I haven't played with matcha as much. And I don't know about it, but I would worry a little bit about the caffeine. I believe matcha has some caffeine. And so, just examine yourself, just examine how you feel. I mean, if caffeine is something that is good for you and works for you, go with it. But remember that caffeine revs up our system, right? And it's a diuretic. So it dehydrates us more. And what happens by revving up our system and dehydrating us, we think we want to eat, and we think we want to eat more. Really, all our body is asking for is water. And move your body. Just move your body so you make sure you get that energy out. But you can see, even after a 3-day fast, I'm like loaded with energy. It's amazing because I have more clarity. I have as somebody said, I think Delia was saying that she has downloads. I've been getting a lot of downloads. I have just so many ideas. I'm brimming with energy, and it's not something that you would expect from a lack of food, but it's because my digestive fire is stronger now. So this is all about self-love, self-respect, nourishing yourself, raising your vibrations, and it helps you find your balance and purpose in life. So, I'm really grateful for this series, because I didn't even realize as I was creating recipes and going through this, how much I was aligning myself. And I've really raised my vibrations. I've really raised my content. I've aligned myself that, the purpose and passion is there. That's such a thing as a 5-day fast, where it used to be, a little bit more preparation. I'm so aligned right now that I could just jump right into it. So I'm really grateful for all of you supporting me through this series, to the Modern Witch Movement, and getting through this series. So let's talk about food. Let's talk about the actual food and the dish we're going to make. I've been spent so much time talking, but usually I'm rushing to get the food made because it needs time. This one doesn't need as much time because it's more simple to cook. And what we're making is cauliflower rice, right? So, again, cauliflower being white. So, it's great because it's not a grain. You can just have the cauliflower as being your rice. And we're going to use coconut to flavor it. Again, another white food, really good for you. And all of this is high vibrational. Now, I'm just going to start this cauliflower rice going, and we'll talk about the rest of the recipe. So I used a small head of cauliflower, and I put it through a food processor. You can buy riced cauliflower, pre-riced, in a bag or in a container. Just make sure it's organic. You want to make sure that when you're putting foods into your body that you're eating as clean as possible. We're all just doing our best. Don't judge yourself. Don't criticize yourself. Because that's the worst thing you can do. If you go for that giant, double cheeseburger with whatever on top, and you're like, I just have to do it, this is what I'm craving, go with it and don't criticize yourself. Just remember to rebalance afterwards. When we criticize ourselves, when we judge ourselves, we're creating more toxins in our body than if we just accept it and go with it, allow yourself to transform and transmute it, and then try to rebalance your diet in other ways. So eat as clean as you can. So we're adding riced cauliflower. So that's about, I think it's like 5 cups of cauliflower. I wrote it in the recipe, which is up there. And I'm adding a cup of coconut milk. And I'm also going to add a little bit of garlic powder. Now, garlic is one of those things that I've mentioned in the past, keeps us in our body. It's a super powerful healing food. It's one of the best foods for healing. It really, but it keeps us in our body. And when we're talking about higher consciousness and like wanting to connect with the outside, maybe practicing things like lucid dreaming and astral travel and whatnot, it can keep us in our body and makes it harder for us to kind of go outside. So in this case, I'm using powdered garlic because it adds a nice flavor, but it doesn't have that kind of intensity of garlic. And because it's powdered, it's just not as potent in those areas as fresh garlic. And I'm also going to add some salt. And, you can, adjust seasonings and, all according to taste. We all have our own taste buds. We all have that, what we like. And okay, so this is just cooking over about a medium heat. I'm still getting used to this little induction burner. I'm not really a big fan of induction burners. I like my gas burner, which is probably, it's probably better to use induction for some things, but it's just the cooking is different. So we're going to learn how this cooks because I usually cook over gas, but it works well enough. I'm just mixing in the salt, the garlic powder, and the coconut milk. And I used, just a unsweetened coconut milk. And it's, I try to buy coconut milk that doesn't have things like guar gum. Unfortunately, this one does. It's, you do what you can find. But, I don't use a low-fat milk. You can do whatever. I mean, fat is good for you. Coconut fat is good for you. We've been taught by the sugar industry that fat's not good for you, but that's actually all falsified data. If you want to talk to me about that, reach out to me. So please incorporate good fats, not trans fats, not, hydrogenated fats, good fats, natural fats into your diet. Think like coconut, think like seed, think things like that. So this is just going to sit cooking for a while. And it's going to, the cauliflower is going to release some liquid. And there's obviously the liquid of the coconut. So what you want to do is cook it down so that it is just, just about, cooked through, but not soggy, not too soggy, because you don't want to, you don't want to just have mush, just like rice, you want to cook it so that it's a nice texture, combination between the firmness and the softness. But it's obviously going to cook much faster than rice. So this is only going to take about 10 minutes. The rest of the recipe, avocado. Yes, avocado oil is great. Avocado flesh is great. All of that kind of fat. Yes, avocado fats. Excellent fats. Olive is good. what else? There's so many out there. And I'm sure, like, nuts and seeds. The fats from nuts and seeds are always good. But this is really important. And it's really, when we talk about the Crown Chakra, we're talking about the brain, talking about the nervous system. Our brain is mostly fat. It's mostly comprised of fat, right? That's how we send all these electrical signals. That's how we do all this processing. This is how we buffer ourselves. That's important, not only for our brain, but important for our cells. Our cells have what's called a lipid bilayer. It's a fat bilayer. There's fat. Everything on the outside is water soluble. Everything on the inside is water soluble. But then there's this fat portion right there. And this is where things have to get through. So we coat them in fat to get the vitamins and the nutrients and all these things into ourselves. And into ourselves. And so fat's important. Fat's important in our diet. Good fats are important. We've just been misled by the food industry. And it's really important to learn how to decode marketing and messaging and all these things. And these are things that I talk about, with people as I'm working with them, because, we really are being sold things that sound really good, but are not really good for us. And it's because they've learned, because they study behavior, they study human behavior, and they understand how to get you to think in the way that they want you to think so that you buy their product. For example, how to make nutritionally deficient food so you buy more food. All right. So think about, like, when you're buying food, when you're thinking about what to use, you're thinking about what to eat, like just try to be conscious as much, as you can. And again, like I said, don't judge yourself. Oh, good. This is on. Don't judge yourself. I'm going to go get a hot pad. I realize I don't have one here, and I don't want to burn myself when I touch this. So I will be right back. Okay, so this is going to continue cooking. Now, in this recipe, there's really not much. It's going to be really flavorful without being too flavorful. Because for the Crown Chakra, we don't want to have too much exciting flavor. You know me, I love to cook with exciting flavor. I put lots of spices, lots of things into my food. And the reason that we don't want to cook with too much is because the Crown Chakra is about leaving our body. So when we're exciting it with spices and, jalapeno and, paprika and all these fun things, we are exciting our body and we're staying in our body. So what we want to do is have food that tastes good, but it's not too overstimulating for our body. So that's why I have a little bit of salt, a little bit of garlic powder. The main flavor from this is going to come from the sauce that I made. So again, when you use this recipe, you're going to find that 1 can of coconut milk is going to be enough for both the sauce and the cooking, and you'll probably have some left over. If there's any left over, stick it into a smoothie, stick it into something that you are eating. Mix it with some cereal, do whatever you want with it. It's really good, and it's use it all up. But you'll find 1 can is enough for both. So we're going to take, for the sauce, I'm not going to make the sauce. I actually already have it made. I made enough of it, as you can see. So I'm not going to make it here because it's so simple. You take all the ingredients I'm about to tell you and you stick it into a blender. And as soon as it's in a blender, you just blend it up and that's it. So we're using 3/4 a cup of coconut milk. We're going to use 1/2 cup of tahini. Now, sesame, we're going to be using sesame seeds in the actual dish with the cauliflower rice. We're going to be using sesame seeds because sesame seeds are so good. They're good for brain function. They're good for they're an amazing food. They have so many good properties and so many vitamins and nutrients. And so we're going to be using the whole seeds. But sometimes we don't always digest the whole seeds because we don't chew enough. If you are going to be conscious about what you're eating, do what you can. Chew as much as possible. One of the old Ayurvedic messages is you should be drinking your solids and eating your liquids. That means when you drink something, when you drink even a glass of water, swish it around in your mouth. When you're drinking, broth, when you're drinking juices, when you're drinking anything, swish it around in your mouth. Your digestive process actually begins in your mouth. You have all these enzymes there that are helping you digest. It begins there. So when you do that, you're helping prime your body for digestion. So swish it around. And when you're eating food, you should be chewing to liquefaction. You should really be chewing a lot. We tend to eat and swallow. I eat and swallow. But when I am conscious, I chew as much as possible. The more you chew, the better it is. You not only are improving your digestive health by chewing a lot, you're improving the health of your teeth. Our predecessors were eating a lot of food that wasn't pre-cooked, and they had to chew a lot. They chewed a lot, and it kept their teeth healthy. We're in a modern day where we're eating a lot of sugar and we're eating a lot of processed food, and we're not chewing. So chew, and it'll help your teeth. It'll help your digestion. So tahini is, I'm using this tahini here. This is once again, it's an unsweetened tahini. It's all the good things, non-GMO, organic, blah, blah, blah. Again, do whatever you can. But tahini is basically a sesame seed paste. I'm sorry, this light is not allowing me to show that, but you see the word tahini. It's a sesame seed paste. So it basically breaks down the sesame seeds into a paste. And so, you're getting a little bit more of the nutrition that you may not necessarily get from the seeds. I like to double up because anything processed obviously is lacking some of the nutrition that you would get from anything raw. So that's why I'm doubling up here. So the other aspect of here it is, miso. So I am using a white miso here. Miso comes in 3, I think white, yellow, and red. I think there's probably thousands more, but these are the ones that I find in the Japanese grocery store. You can also find it in Whole Foods, wherever you go. But miso is one of the best foods for us because it actually acts as a prebiotic. It is something that feeds the healthy gut bacteria in us. I'm going to turn this off. It feeds the healthy gut bacteria. It is the nutrients that the bacteria need. It has everything that we need in us to really stabilize and stimulate and encourage healthy growth and healthy flourish of this bacteria. I have this whole talk on probiotics, and you've heard me talk about it in previous episodes, that probiotics are creating monocultures in our body. So I encourage you to reduce the probiotics, increase the prebiotics. Miso is a great prebiotics. I'm so glad you love miso. I love it too. It's going to add a lot of flavor. It's going to add the salt. So it's going to give us the good components for our body, and it's going to flavor this sauce in a really good way. I'm also going to add some liquid aminos. I'm using coconut aminos here. You can use Bragg's liquid aminos, anything. There is a difference between the soy-based aminos and the coconut-based aminos. It's not that much of a difference. Don't worry about the soy intake of miso or the aminos. This is not, you will not have the problems that are associated with soy. And really the problems that are associated with soy are not the problems that we think and that have been sold to us. Soy is a whole nother conversation for another day. But don't, when you're talking about aminos, and miso, soy is not, it's been fermented and digested and naturally to a point where you don't even have those components that would be triggering you. I just use coconut aminos sometimes because I just sometimes reduce, I just change it up. I think there's 16 amino acids in Bragg's liquid aminos, and I think there's 17 amino acids in coconut aminos, so you're getting a good amino variety and content. And then the last thing I'm going to add, which I don't have right here, so I'm going to go to the fridge, be right back, is the trusty apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is good for our health all around. I mean, this is what fire cider is brewed with, and this is just nature's gift to us and people who ferment it and process it. Thank you. But apple cider vinegar is going to add a little bit of spark, a little bit of freshness, because between the salt and the miso and the salt in the liquid aminos and the little bit of salt that we have here, you just want to add a bright fresh note. You can also squeeze lemon on top. Lots of different ways to add that freshness. But again, the reason I'm using the apple cider vinegar instead of something like lemon is because I'm just changing it up. The apple cider vinegar is so good for our health. I'm doing a lot of things for the gut health, with regard to just clearing that part of our body. So when I reintroduce foods, I like to reintroduce with, all components of health that are good for us. Okay, so this cauliflower rice is done. Let me get my little thing here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because of the camera, but I'm going to put it into, well, I want to mix first. So you can see here, it's nice and steamy. It's still firm, but it's soft enough and, it's cooked. So that's the state that you want it in. And, oh, you know what I forgot to add to this? Well, it's okay. It tastes better when you cook it together, but I forgot to add the half a cup of shredded coconut. So you'll see that in the recipe that I include a half a cup of shredded coconut. I got so excited about getting the cauliflower on that I forgot to add it. It's totally fine. I mean, it's just to build flavor. I love to build flavor in everything. So when you cook with the coconut milk and you cook with the coconut flakes, I'm using unsweetened coconut flakes, right? We want to make sure that we're not reintroducing with lots of sugar into our diet. So we're getting the good fat from the meat here dried up, and it's going to build flavor into that rice. I forgot it. It's still going to add flavor to the rice. It's just not going to be as robust, but that's okay. That's okay because, it's all the good things, and it's one of those things that I could still cook down this rice a little bit more, but, just for the sake of time, I'm going to keep it here. And I'm also going to add sesame seeds. So we talked about sesame seeds. I like to add sesame seeds for texture, for, the nutrition. I also just kind of like the way the rice looks. Cauliflower rice doesn't kind of have that same look of rice because it's, riced differently. I like the way the sesame looks in there too. And, like I said, it adds a bit of texture in there. The coconut will as well, especially because it's not cooked. And then I'm going to also add some cilantro. So I have some cilantro pre-chopped here. We were talking about cilantro earlier and how good it is for removing toxins. Cilantro is optional, obviously. If you have that gene that makes cilantro taste like smoke, please don't eat it. That will not make your dish taste good. And this is all about flavor. Okay, so I've just mixed all those things in. And I'm going to plate this. So the beautiful thing about this is you're eating cauliflower, right? You can eat as much as you want. When I serve my husband, he has a big appetite. So I serve him the whole thing. When I'm reintroducing food into my diet after fast, I go with small portions and I eat slowly and I allow myself to feel how my body feels with a little bit of food. You don't want to stress your systems. I'm going to feed this to my husband, so I'm going to serve the whole portion here. So we have that. You can see how beautiful it is. Again, the light, but you can see the green. You can't see the seeds in this, but it's there, trust me. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a combination of cooked and raw veggies on top of this. Now you're going to see that I haven't included any protein. Now there's there's more protein in things than you think. Like there's protein in, even in the sesame seeds, and it's just enough. You don't need to have protein in everything, and you can balance out your food. And it's really nice not to reintroduce with a heavy protein, because when you're reintroducing with something that's hard to digest, you're stressing your system. So think things light. This is high vibrational food. All of this food is going to lift your vibrations. It has so much energy in it, and it's going to keep you in that high state of consciousness. So we're going to use the colors of the rainbow to dress this up. And I encourage you to eat the colors of the rainbow as much as you can. Here's the pre-made dish that I made in preparation for this episode as I was practicing. And you can see that when you eat the colors of the rainbow, you're eating with your eyes. I encourage you to eat with all your senses. Smell your food. You can smell it, and when you smell it, you get your digestive enzymes in your mouth going. When you see the colors there, you get the visual senses going. You can hear the crunches of things, I'm using radishes, but use anything red. use a tomato, use red bell pepper, whatever you want to do. I'm using raw radishes here. Now, I just slice these radishes using a mandolin. I don't know, if this is an instrument, a tool that you guys know or use. You can get these for like $10 to $20. Basically, this is how, I don't have a radish with me. Oh, yes, I do. Here we go. But this is just a tool that you use to slice. It has, you get one that can have like different, accessories to it. This one has little like grates on it to make more grated things. That's how I grate a carrot. But you just basically are going to push this along and you get a radish slice. Very nice thin slices of radish. And you can get them thick, thin, whatever. I love this tool. It's a great way to do it. You can also shred and slice in a food processor. All these tools are magical. I encourage you to play with tools because when you play with tools, you open up the world of food for yourself. So I've added some radish for red. I'm going to use carrot. I have grated carrot for orange. Use anything orange. There's, whatever you want. You can have like orange bell pepper, sweet potatoes. If you use sweet potatoes, obviously cook them. I recommend baking because baking is when you're going to get the most nutritional value out of it, and it's just really good. Baked sweet potato is amazing, right? So yellow, what I've done here is I sauteed some squash. I did this earlier. But it's just lightly sauteed, and I used a coconut oil, use an olive oil, use whatever you want. I mean, typically coconut oil, olive oil, these oils are low heat oils, so you don't want to overcook. And because this squash cooks really quickly, I don't have to worry about high heat or long temperatures in cooking. Really, if you're cooking for a long period of time, you want to be using heartier oils that don't break down, because when they break down, you're creating toxins in your body in another way. So in this case, I used the coconut oil because it was cooked really quickly. So I'm going to add some of the squash. All right. And I have some sprouts here for the green. You can use whatever you like. I mean, you can cook up some kale, you can use microgreens, use lettuce, collards, whatever you want. It's a great way to add some variety into your diet. Maybe a green you don't normally eat. Maybe a green you do eat normally. It doesn't really matter. But again, like this plate is a mixture of cooked and raw. So I like to have that mixture in there. You don't want to have too much raw because it is harder to digest, but you do want to have that experience of that high vibration, high water content. For the purple, I am using shredded purple cabbage. As we mentioned in the throat chakra episode, there's not many blue foods. So I am just doing purple, blue, indigo for the crown all together. So I have some purple cabbage here. And I am using a purple potato. Now, I want to talk to you about potatoes real quick because potatoes get a bad rap. Potatoes have been blamed for causing a lot of problems with our body, including heart and diabetes and all these things, weight gain. Potatoes inherently are not bad for you. It's how we eat them that makes them bad for us. Potatoes, we love them fried. We love them smothered in butter. We love them, I don't know, just every single way that you can think that is great to eat a potato. That's just not good for our body. Truly, potatoes have a lot of important, good vitamins and minerals and all these things that we want in our body. Potatoes actually have a lot of vitamin B, and B is really good for our brain. It's really important for our brain. And when we're talking about the crown chakra, I can't think of anything better than a food that's good for our brain. The reason potatoes get a bad rap is because they are a starch that breaks down easily. This is where we get a lot of glucose in our blood, the sugar, right? So our body breaks down the starch into a very simple to process sugar. We have a lot of sugar in our body, our insulin rises, we think we're hungry, we eat more, and so this causes a problem. What's amazing is a lot of starches can be made into resistant starches. There is the starch within many foods, like potatoes, once they're cooked and then cooled. And when I say cooled, I mean put in the fridge cooled. When they're cooled, they become resistant starches. Resistant starches are not processed by our body. They're not processed in the same way. So they're not going to be processed into glucose, but they are going to be broken down. They're going to be broken down to be able to get the vitamins that we need out of it. And they're also a prebiotic. They're really good for our gut bacteria. So potatoes are not bad for you. When you eat potatoes, cook them. Baking them is the best way. When you get into anything else, then we're talking about, creating a lot of problems. So I diced these potatoes. I made them into small pieces, as you can see. I just took these small, petite purple potatoes. I love purple potatoes. You get them in the summer. Any potato will do, but I just made small little slices or cubes or, whatever, dicing. But, and then I just did a quick, I put them a little bit of oil and I put them in the oven. And then once they were out, I cooled them to room temperature. Then I stuck them in the fridge. Now, cold potatoes are great in something like this, but you can also reheat this. If you heat this up again, the starch is still resistant. It's still okay for you. So remember, cook a potato, let it cool, reheat it. It's better for you than hot potato. Hot, fresh potato tastes really great, really bad for our bodies. So if you're thinking about your health, this is a good way to eat a potato. You can also do this with pastas. I know fresh pasta is so good, freshly cooked pasta and really properly done pasta. You should never cool and reheat. But if you love pasta, you eat a lot of it, and it's something that you really want to try to reduce your consumption of, or you want to try to change the way you eat it, eat some pasta that's been cooked, cooled, and then reheated, because it's better for your body. You will not have those insulin spikes in your body. Okay, so I am putting the potato here, wonderful little potato. I always like to leave a little bit of the cauliflower showing, that little bit of white, so you know that it's cauliflower rice. And I am moving this over. All right, I'm going to dress this up. So this is the dressing that I made. You can see it's just a very simple dressing. I'm just going to drizzle this on top. It's taking its time to come out. Let me just shake this up a bit. All right. Yes, potatoes. Yes, I love potatoes. And, I have been playing with various ways. I just like to do it the way that I just showed you. It's my favorite way to eat potatoes. And, if I have potatoes for breakfast, like I love potatoes for breakfast, especially for brunch and on weekends. And so I'll do it up like that. And it's really good. This sauce is great to use on so many things. So, you'll have some extra left over, put it on whatever you want, whatever salad. But here you can see we have our bowl of food, beautiful colors of the rainbow, so good for your body. High vibrational foods, mixed of cooked and raw. It's all something that your body is going to extract so much nutritional value from. A bowl like this, this looks like a big bowl of food to me right now, especially because I've been fasting. And, it's something that you would find in a period like this, I wouldn't be able to eat something like this because, my stomach has shrunk. But even if you hadn't had a stomach shrinking, you might eat something like this and be like, I can't finish it because you have gotten all the nutritional content you need, especially if you take your time chewing, especially if you're filling yourself up with just this and not supplementing with other things. But it's totally fine. You listen to your body, you do what you need, you take steps in the right direction. It's not about having to do everything at once, about drinking enough water and chewing your food properly, because you will go crazy if you overwhelm yourself. It's about building practices so that they become natural, healthy habits. And if this is something that you want help in doing, reach out to me. This is what I do. I help people, and I've, redeveloped these relationships with food so that we can really be in our best emotional, spiritual, mental, physical health, so that we can be the superpowers that we're meant to be, that we can be as expressive as we want to be and be sharing our magic with the world. So I really want to thank you all. I really want to thank you all for joining me on this journey throughout this series, on today's episode. Thank you for the interaction. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the replay. It's been such a wonderful journey, and I hope that you've learned something about food, yourself, nutrition, whatever. Please reach out to me and tell me. I only want to, be able to help you and help this world and raise our vibrations together, because we're in this together. I will be back for something, one day. We're going to take some time, take some break, and, one day we'll do something new, and, we'll start something new. I want to thank the Modern Witch Movement. So many thank yous to Molly for all that you've done, for these episodes, for this episode, for all that you do. You are an amazing, powerful magician, and I'm so grateful for you. Thank you to Rocky, a co-founder of the Modern Witch Movement. I mean, this, all the magic you both bring into the world. I'm so grateful, and for what you're doing to help me build this company I'm super grateful. Reach out to Molly if you need any help in anything web and like these kind of learning how to do these kind of webcasts and whatever. She knows what she's doing. Reach out to Rocky if you want any photography. She's such an amazing photographer, amongst all the other magical things they do, like tarot reading. And I mean, they're super powerful women, and I'm so blessed they're in my life. I want to thank you all again for joining me. It's been an amazing journey, and I look forward to hearing about what you've made. Please share what you've made. I'd love to see it. Thank you so much, and I will see you again soon at some point. Bye.